I'm here with Tamuna and Colin McKenzie in Wellington on a very blustery day, but it's warm and snug in here. These two are extraordinary New Zealanders, and I wanted them to tell their story just very briefly, Colin and Tamuna. You guys have been working out in New Zealand, up in Georgia, and other exotic places. Why don't you tell us, what you've done up there and why someone from New Zealand gets to go up to those exotic places?
Yeah, we've been working primarily in the Caucasus with the Norwegian Refugee Council, mainly capacity building, training, helping people to manage conflict better. Yes, it has been quite fascinating in terms of some of the challenges. The challenges are huge. Working in a country which is the former Soviet Union, where people don't have any respect for organisations, they have respect for each other. That's what's really critical. Working on a training where it's very, very important for us to try to tie into what's really important for them, so that we're not just providing a prescriptive kind of training package and saying here's what you do. We've worked primarily with a very elicitive and prescriptive approach where we really build on what's important for them, and that's had some really good success. In a couple of weeks we're heading to Tajikistan to work there for 5 to 8 days, again with the Norwegian Refugee Council, and yes, again it's capacity building.
I think what is very different in those countries and region is relationship, the focus of people on relationship. And when we teach our methods, we try to keep this in mind so that we just don't give them prescriptions or instructions how to work, but keep in mind their focus, which is so vital for all countries in Caucasus as well as Central Asia.
Yeah, it's getting away from a transactional approach to managing conflict to really working with attitudes and assumptions and values, which is so fundamental. Because, for example, there's a huge difference between the younger people and the older people. The older people who have lived under the Soviet system have a very different mentality and attitude to the younger people who are coming up and being qualified often by Western institutions. And those attitudes are ingrained, and so working with that is really, really quite challenging.
And Colin, how come two New Zealanders, I mean I know Tamuna's from the Republic of Georgia originally, but how can two New Zealanders do that from here? That's what fascinates me. We're so far away from that environment. How do you not make it prescriptive? Or how do you...
Well, I think part of it, Jeff, is ensuring that at the start you're working with two different models. You're working with their model of managing conflict and our model of managing conflict. And you're working with how does each model enrich and inform the other. That's the power of it. You're not saying, gosh, here's our model and this is what you should do, and you're not going totally elicitive and saying, give us what you do and we'll help you with that. You're actually going on a parallel track. And that's the power, because you're starting to say, look, we can provide you with some prescriptive ideas, but at the same time we want to build your own taken for granted ways of managing conflict itself, and you're working with both of these as you move through a training program.
And do they have some historic conflicts that are particularly needy, or is this just general capacity building work?
Yeah, they have lots of historic conflicts, unfortunately, lots of armed conflicts in all countries we work, and also civil wars, ethnic conflicts. Yeah, unfortunately that's the case in these countries.
Yeah, you're managing conflict which is totally entrenched, totally polarised, totally positional, and they are actually really wanting to say, how do you manage that conversation? How do you respond to someone who's got a different value base, who's very positional, who's really challenging me in terms of what I want and what I know?
Great stuff. Well, there's two Kiwis taking to the world. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.